Today I'd like to talk about how to classify a verb. Why is that so important? A couple of reasons. Depending upon how you classify a verb, it will affect the kind of words that follow it for formal grammar. For example, depending on if a verb is linking, transitive, or intransitive, you'd be able to say a sentence and know which one is correct for the winners are we students or the winners are us students. Or Tom saw we students or us students during lunch. That kind of approach for verb classification helps in advanced grammar. And so for my freshmen, we teach verb classification and indicating what kind of idea follows it based upon the kind of verb that we use to classify the idea in a sentence. So let's start with overall, there are three different kinds of verbs. There's the linking verb, which links the subject to an idea after the verb. There's transitive verbs, which transfers the action from the subject to the verb to the idea at the end of a sentence. And then there is the intransitive verb, where the action stops at the verb and it goes no further from there. And to tell the students how to do it, I'm going to teach you Caldwell's style of verb classification. You don't get it in a grammar book, but it always works. So let's start with step one. In order to classify a verb, you have to read the sentence and get the idea of a sentence. For example, when I have a sentence like, Tom felt uneasy about the test today, you have to kind of get the idea that Tom is uneasy about the test. And once you get that, you identify the subject and the verb. In this case, Tom felt. Now at this point, to identify the first step as linking, replace the verb with the word equal or equals. It's linking the subject to something after the verb. And if that sentence still makes sense, when you say equal or equals, the verb is linking. For example, Tom felt uneasy about the test today. Tom equals uneasy about the test today. Does that still make sense? Absolutely. Felt is a linking verb, linking Tom to his uneasiness. Now, if you say the subject and say equals and the rest of the sentence and it doesn't make any sense, or the sentence completely changes its meaning, it obviously is not linking. Now you go to step number two, which is transitive. To find a transitive verb, you have to say your subject, you say your verb, you no longer say equals, you just say the verb, and then you ask the question whom or what after the verb. If it answers whom or what, that means it's a transitive verb and the action transferred from the subject to the verb to the ideas after the verb. An example of that would be the sentence, Tom felt the warm water. Tom felt the warm water. But let's go back to Tom felt uneasy. Tom equals uneasy about the test today. Okay, we found felt. That makes sense. So that's as far as we would go. But if it didn't make sense, as in the next step, which is going to be step number 3, to check for a transitive verb, let's use the sentence, Tom felt the warm water of his pool. We always start with linking first, so we'll replace felt with equals. Tom equals the warm water of his pool. Obviously, Tom is not warm water. It is not a linking verb. Therefore, we go to the next step, which is to check for transitive, and we ask whom or what after the subject and the verb. So in the sentence, Tom felt the warm water of his pool, we would say Tom felt whom or what? Well, he felt what? The warm water. Felt is a transitive verb. And we'll learn that transitive verbs require direct objects, indirect objects, and objective complements for a freshman after the transitive verb. Now, if it doesn't answer whom or what after the subject and the verb, it, by nature process of elimination, makes it an intransitive verb. And that takes me to the next sentence for intransitive. Let's just use the sentence, Tom felt around for his wallet in the dark. Tom felt around for his wallet in the dark. Okay, we always start with linking. Tom equals around for his wallet in the dark. Doesn't make sense. So we go to the next step. Whom or what? Tom felt whom or what? Well, that doesn't answer really whom or what. It answers where he felt for his wallet, not what he felt. Therefore, felt is an intransitive verb, and the action stops at felt. So that makes it an intransitive verb. And what our students learn is, if there's a linking verb, there's going to be a complement called a predicate adjective or a predicate nominative following a linking verb. If it's not a linking verb, then we check for transitive verb, and after transitive verbs that answer whom or what, it will either be a direct object, an indirect object, and or an objective complement. And if it's an intransitive verb, that means there is no complement at all. The action stopped at the verb. And that, my friends, is the Caldwell approach to verb classification.